Well, 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 does it seem a scandal is a-brewing. Last week, the Milan court put a subsidiary of LVMH that basically makes the bags for Dior under court administration. A similar thing has also been happening at Armani. What does this mean? I'm going to go through it. But one large finding as part of this investigation was that Dior selling bags for 2,600 euros when they actually cost 53 to make. That's yeah. Okay, so I will be going through this. I'm going to try and break it down for us. What does this mean? What does this mean to us as consumers? All of that business. One more blow to the luxury fashion industry, it seems, right? It's all kicking off, basically. And look, this isn't some niche under the radar luxury brand that, oh, if you're only in fashion, do you really know, and blah, blah, blah. This is a ginormous household name. This is one of the biggest luxury brands ever. And it seems tomfoolery is at play. Guys, if you are new here, my name is Cassie and I'm a self-diagnosed luxury addict. I put out videos on Mondays, Wednesdays and Fridays. So if you like luxury fashion, then you're probably going to love it here. So head down there, subscribe, turn on the bell, become a member of our luxury addicted family. When are we going to rehab? Never, but we're also making wise choices. Okay, so they're under court administration for basically not meeting Italian standards of labour practices, okay? Essentially, everything in here is alleged, okay? Don't come for me, please. A lawsuit, I can't. It would just, no, I can't handle a lawsuit. I'm just trying to make it through the day, all right? For not meeting Italian labour standards, either directly or through their subcontractors, okay? A lot of these luxury brands operate very differently. Some of them contract it out to different factories and blah, blah, blah to produce their things. Some places, I'm also assuming, own the end-to-end process so they can oversee everything, okay? But examples of basically not meeting these labour practices are factories that go on from day to night, as in, like, they're not stopping, they're trying to pump out as much as physically possible, and, horrendous, safety catches or devices being turned off or removed from machinery so that they can work faster. It also looks like the factory workers were made to live in the factory so that they could obviously work for as long as physically possible. This is according to reports. This is the opposite of luxury. Okay, the whole point of luxury is that you don't need to quote unquote worry about all of these things. Otherwise, what are we paying for? I mean, we know that a lot of luxury fashion now is much more mass-produced than it was. It's much more, you know, on a wider scale, done by factories. Some are still handmade, some aren't, right? But you do still expect, at the very, very least, that everything is hunky-dory with labour practices. Otherwise, what really is the difference between luxury and fast fashion? Fast fashion is an industry that constantly gets, ripped apart for environmental practices, labour practices, things like this, right? And if luxury is playing games like this, okay, fair enough, it's not all houses. We only really know of these two now. Apparently there's 12 more that they're currently, like, doing an investigation to see whether or not they're doing these practices or whatever. But what makes you any different from a fast fashion brand, you know? Like I said, this is really going to be about Dior and Armani in particular, because those are the two brands that are currently under court administration. The other thing as well is that we don't know how many of these factories does a brand like Dior use. Is this the one factory they use for their bags, sorts of thing? Do they have numerous factories for the bags, and this is one, and the rest of them have great labour practices in this one, or are they all allegedly, or are they all exploiting workers, sort of thing? I don't know if we'll fully be able to, like, get into the weeds, purely because we don't have the transparency of how many factories and from where and do this and which ones provide what and blah 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 and all of that business. Basically, I've somehow confused myself by filming this video and I'm just trying to talk through my thoughts because, yeah, I don't want to, like, provide any misinformation or whatever. I will say one thing that I think there is a bit of an issue with in luxury fashion is this lack of transparency, you know, around the production. We really don't know end to end what goes into making a lot of these luxury items. Okay, some brands are better than others. Vivienne Westwood is a great brand that is extremely sort of like, make sure everything is ethically done, fair trade, everybody's getting paid a fair wage for their, you know, hand in making a product, all of that, and they've always been like that. This is one more sort of evidence of cost cutting that we're seeing from some of these luxury brands, whilst as a consumer we're also seeing price increases. It's not really adding up. So what are they doing? They're just increasing their margins, making even more money, because really at the end of the day, these are all companies and they all have to be growing, okay? Shock, horror if they have bad results or they don't grow or they've plateaued for years or whatever. It's simply the worst thing in luxury fashion if you're not constantly growing and doing better and whatever and making more and more and more money, right? I mean, that's a whole other thing in itself. However, I do think that, and I know that luxury is in a bit of a slump at the moment. I know that a lot of companies are sort of figuring out what to do and how to be the it brand and how to make it in this economy and blah, blah, blah. One thing that I don't think should be shoved to the wayside is looking within, making sure that practices and transparency and the production and everything is squeaky clean, because in the long run, surely that only helps. So a big thing about this is that bags that Dior is selling for 2,600 euros are actually being made for 53. I put my little detective glasses on. I went tap, tap, tapping on my keyboard. I suspect that the bag is the Dior book tote. This sort of like, I basically went on the website and I was like, okay, what kind of bags in euros are around that price? And the book tote is like 2,700. It is a widely replicated and knocked off bag. There's no leather on this bag. This bag is fabric, embroidered fabric, that is sewn together into this very simple tote shape. It's a very simple bag. I thought I was Miss Detective. Turns out that the particular $2,500 bag is not the book tote. It was a style that they don't sell anymore. I would love to know what that style was, but I would also be interested to find out how much something like the book tote takes to make, considering it is fabric, considering that it is quite a simple design with no hardware embellishments. The other thing with Dior as well that's almost like, okay, a little bit of the audacity, is that they do these videos which is like the making of a Dior bag. I actually wonder if they've done one about the book tote. So a year ago they did one on on how they make the Dior book tote. They sort of do this and it's been made, and you just, you know, you see the same pair of hands going through it and all of that, which clearly is not the case as to how these bags are actually being produced, it seems, allegedly. Okay, so Armani's margins don't even seem as crazy as Dior's. So for example, a certain bag costs 93 euros each. That is sold to Armani by a middleman. I didn't really sort of understand that, the subcontracting, contracting, for 250 euros, okay? And then Armani sells that bag for 1,800 euros. You see, their margins aren't even as high as the 53 euros to the 2,600. Now, basically all of this court administration stuff, what does it mean? An external commissioner will be supervising these companies until it is decided that they have adequately addressed these issues, okay? I think that they've been given this external commissioner for about a year, and then I'm not sure if like things are reevaluated or whatever. And I'm sure that a lot of these big brands feign innocence, and are like, oh, we had no idea that this other factory that we subcontracted and don't own directly has been up to those suspicious things, you know? But here's the thing. As consumers, as people who buy or are interested in these items, nobody likes to be made to look like a fool. Okay, I did a video about a year ago going through Tanner Leatherstein, or Leather Tannerstein. Tanner Leatherstein. His video, you know, he's the guy, he like literally breaks down the price and the bags to kind of determine as a leathersmith, as a leather expert, how much he thinks actually goes into the production of these bags and whatever, right? And we know that the margins are big. We know that we're paying for the name, we're paying for the marketing, we're paying for runway shows, models being hired, store rental space, marketing campaigns, store experiences. All of that stuff gets built into the price, which is eventually what we end up paying. However, not at the expense of exploiting workers and the safety of those workers creating your products. There is a Business of Fashion article that covered all of this by Sarah Kent, and the last sentence I thought was brilliant, which is, investing in supply chains in the midst of a slowdown is a tricky proposition, but failure to act could cost luxury labels their most precious asset, their good name. Because exactly like I said before, you're now putting yourself in a position which is like, okay, well, what makes you any better from fast fashion companies who have also been roasted on the coals about labour exploitation as well? How are these two things any different, you know? So, I mean, I found it extremely disappointing. I think that especially, it's also very surprising to me that a company that big is willing to risk being that sloppy. Like, whether it was somebody that they subcontracted, whether it was direct or whatever, I mean, purely you would think out of, you know, out of just common human decency that you don't want to be exploiting people. But you would even think from a business sort of point of view, exactly, you're risking a lot there by not doing your due diligence and making sure that everything checks out. Look, they've got a year to fix themselves. Apparently 12 other brands were under investigation. Let's see, you know, if any other names come out. I also hope that this lights a fire under brands who are maybe cutting corners that we don't know about to sort themselves out, because this is just widely disappointing. And as somebody who loves luxury, that was one thing that I thought I didn't have to worry about. Anyway, so there you go. Sorry for a bit of a downer on a video, isn't it? Okay, go and do something that cheers you up after this video, because I don't like being too negative. Sometimes I try and throw in a bit of humour there to lighten things up, but go and do something that makes you smile after this video. Listen to your favourite song. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I am going to leave a link to another video over here that's hopefully a little bit more upbeat, in case you haven't already seen it. Have an amazing morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are, and in the words of my father,
if you've enjoyed it, tell your friends. If you haven't, keep your mouth shut.
I'll see you in my next video. Mwah. Bye guys.